You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold, episode 42. Today we welcome in New York City personal injury plaintiff side attorney Kyle Newman. How are you out there today?
Thank you, sir. I'm doing well. New York City coming back alive. We got the good weather coming. Life's good. We got through the bulk of this and we just got to keep our heads down and, hopefully enjoy a good summer. So I'm just really psyched to be with you.
Thank you.
Big fan of Lawyer Stories and, hopefully, drop some value for some good young attorneys out there today.
Oh, absolutely. This will be good for all of us, man. It's definitely good to connect with you finally. Cause we did feature you. I was looking back at the Lawyer Stories archives there and it looks like it was March.
Yep.
20th. March 2nd, 2020. So I like to go back and
right before it all went down. That was literally when it all went down. It was like, I Am Legend, Will Smith on Manhattan Island trying to get out of here, or, just try to ride the storm. We didn't know what was going on.
Well,
funny story. Yeah, my 4-year-old, he's born in the beginning of March, and he literally had the last birthday party of like the entire city. It was like whispers of COVID, and we somehow got it in, and then the following week it was just over.
Where was it?
It's about it was a kiddie place, somewhere in the Upper East Side where we live.
Oh,
in New
okay.
York.
So it wasn't in like the meatpacking district or anything like that?
No, not yet.
That's great, man. I'm definitely glad to hear New York City's coming back. And I think, I loved visiting New York. Good friend there when I was living in downtown New Haven. So that's great. Love New York.
Yep.
Glad to have you with us.
Yeah.
So during that feature,
thanks, brother.
March 2nd, 2020, you started off your story by telling us you're a third generation plaintiff attorney in New York City. That's pretty cool. That's definitely cool. So I want to hear about, and I think the Lawyer Stories community would like to hear about the first two generations a little bit, and how you got to you don't have to go through, your complete story yet, but just what were the first two generations like?
Sure. So my father, who I practice with now, is James Newman. He has been a plaintiff's personal injury attorney for, it's going on 40 plus years. And my grandfather on my mom's side is one of the, old school plaintiff's trial attorneys in New York City. Growing up, so my dad actually, he started out working for him and then ultimately went out on his own. But my whole life, I have always been around, lawyers. And what I didn't know at the time when I was a little kid is, my grandfather, his circle, there were incredible attorneys, especially trial attorneys in this world, that were their great friends. And back in the day, where I practice mostly is in Bronx County in New York. Amazing. The Bronx County Bar Association is one of the strongest, tight-knit bar associations. And what they used to do in the 80s when I was a little kid is they would take these retreats. And I remember as a little kid going to Puerto Rico and other places in the Caribbean on these trips with my grandfather, my dad, and meeting all these people, and always just looking up to them. My grandfather had an office down on Vesey Street, which is right by the Twin Towers, where it was downtown.
Right.
And he's just the old school. He was practicing till he was like 85 years old. Right. So it's definitely in my, in the blood, I would say. So I also practice with both of my younger brothers. So, yeah.
Well, I think that's super interesting because you're really into technology stuff today, but it seems like you're also you go back and you can really appreciate the classic lawyering, right? Your grandfather and
absolutely
your dad. So what do you, and this is just incidentally, what do you see like the profession like changing? Do you think it was more, it's changed a lot? Was it like more classic back then? I think it seems to me a lot of the traditions have changed today.
I think that I actually, there's an amazing law book set. It's called the Art of Advocacy, and it's a series. It's like 10 books that goes through openings, closings, discovery, demonstrative evidence. And I actually they stopped printing it in the late 80s, but my grandfather was able to get it from him because I used to love it. I love this. And, I've gone through them over the course of my career. And I think that the principles, are pretty much the same. What's happened, I think, recently, and I think it was well overdue, is that the courts, because of COVID, were essentially forced to be propelled, 10, 15 years into the future. Before this, there was nothing like, what we're doing now. No video conferencing, no, the technological, at least in New York, was for the most part very limited. So as a young attorney, being able to bring technology to court, particularly trial technology, evidence presentation technology, which is what I love, that's my thing, was really a big game changer for me. And now with this whole video conferencing, it's amazing, especially for young attorneys. I can't emphasize it enough. I'm sure everyone out there has been in a Zoom call where you're going up against, the senior partner who can't work the Zoom camera, or like the cat lawyer type shit that's going on all the time.
That's right.
Yeah. So
Judge, I'm really a human being.
Yeah. As a trial attorney, especially, I'm always looking for ways to get an advantage over my adversary. And Benny, did I freeze there?
Here we go. We're in.
Yeah.
We're back.
All right, we're back. We're back.
We're back. Kyle,
we're back. So yeah.
Go ahead, my man.
I was on a roll.
You were rolling.
Technical difficulty.
You were.
Yeah.
By the way, I want to just thank the people from Larceny Bourbon. Good stuff. I recommend it to anybody out there. Lawyer Stories approved. So thank you very much.
Cheers.
All right, let's do it.
Okay. So we were talking about, the changes in trial practice in the courts. Obviously, in New York right now, there has not really been trials for about a year. I mean, I've just started to get cases back onto the trial calendar, that have been totally on hold for this whole year. But, at its core, I think the principles of trial practice and, are really, the same. It's just dealing with the technology, as well as one of the biggest things I think this pandemic has brought out is, our shrinking attention spans, that we live, the audience that we're, in front of lives in these 60-second, 30-second, blips, right?
So to condition their mind?
Yeah, right. So, the key has always been when you're in front of a jury is engagement, to keep them glued to you, to make what you're doing entertaining so that they, educational, and keep them focused on what you're talking about. And if you lose that, you can lose a jury. So I think that has to be a huge consideration, for attorneys going forward. Absolutely.
For sure. So you came out of law school. We just talked about being third generation plaintiff attorney. You came out of law school, and one thing that's pretty interesting that I read is that, I think definitely a positive to being with your family is within a month they're like, hey, take this trial on. So let's hear a little bit about that, Kyle.
Sure. Yeah. I got a great first trial story. So, when people hear, oh, you work for your dad, people can take that whatever way they want. Some people, it might not work out. But for me, my situation, we're so close. My dad's, my best friend. We work great together, and we do different things. I think that's the key. Before I went into practice with him, he was a solo guy. So what he would do, he would be running the business, seeing clients, doing all the stuff, moving cases, but he would have trial counsel trying his cases. And what I think he saw in me was that I could handle this if I was, pushed into the fire, which is I think in anything, especially when you're, starting out in law, is one of the best things. So what I think makes me unique is the fact that I was in trying cases literally 2 weeks into being admitted to practice. Funny story from my first trial, I was so excited and probably anxious and freaking out that when they brought out the evidence, this was a car accident case, so there was a tray of evidence that they bring out from the evidence room. The court officer brings it in, and it's like kind of next to the well where I'm talking to the jurors, and I'm animated, I'm talking to them all over, and I actually tripped and fell over the evidence, and the whole thing exploded. Okay, in the courtroom. This is a true story. Exploded all over the courtroom. I'd never been so sweaty and red in my entire life. I thought my life is over. The case is won, but luckily, I think the jury felt bad for me.
You couldn't. So that's a tactic now. You're just gonna keep falling all over the place.
That's it. Just feel bad for me.
Just feel bad for me. So you couldn't, when you fell, you couldn't dig like a little hole so that you could climb into. Like,
there was a big part of me that just wanted to run out of that room and never come back.
It's a great story, man. Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. So yeah, and then since then I've been my firm's sole senior trial attorney. I've gotten incredible experience. Over the course of 12, 13 years, I've tried to verdict over 100 cases. So I've been nonstop just trying cases in court every day. And with the pandemic, there's a part of me that it was a nice reprieve. Yeah. A nice break. I don't know if I ever actually told you this, but my wife 2 years ago, she was diagnosed with stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Oh my goodness.
She's amazing. She's doing really well now. And it just happened to be, it was in 2019, which was probably the busiest, most intense trial here of my entire life.
Wow.
And going through about 9 months of chemo with her. And the culmination, it was kind of before COVID, right when she was done, she was probably the sickest she had been. I had my biggest trial ever. And one of the things that resonated with me in that trial was the ability to use the trial technology that I use in court. And it was just so overwhelming in that case. And I kind of came out of it and took a step back like, wow, that was the difference maker in this case with all the shit that was going on in my life, having a little kid and going through all that. It's an incredible tool. And that's really been my thing, ever since is talking about and trying to educate people about using trial technology, because especially now, I think it is so key to learn as much as you can to get an advantage over your adversary, in any way you can, especially with that.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot. I just want to touch on, I want to go back to,
Benny, I'm opening up to you, man.
No, I love it, man. That's terrific. Everybody needs to open up to Benny Gold. You want to be on the show. So let's circle back. You were Maryland undergrad.
Yeah.
Toro Law School. I want to just ask you a couple questions about law school.
Sure.
So what was like your fit? Like, what was your law school experience like? Like, what did you dislike? What did you like? Like, I know it's sort of like a sophomorish question, but I'm curious. I'm curious about the law school experience for especially somebody who's as successful as you are right now, because like sometimes, and just I'll leave it at that.
Sure. So for me, I was the type of kid, went through college, really didn't have, I kind of in the back of my mind with my background, my family background, kind of knew at the end that I would ultimately end up going to law school.
What'd you do undergrad?
What's that?
What'd you study undergrad?
I did criminal justice and criminology at Maryland, but at big state school like that, I to be honest, I was not as that into my studies in college, like I became in law school. In law school, I really loved it. I don't think I've ever worked as hard, at anything up until that point in my life. I really didn't know what real hard school work was. School for the most part had been pretty easy for me to get by, without having to work that hard. But in law school is a real kick in the face as to how hard you have to work. And I compare it to, it's like almost like SEAL training, law school, where it's like a rite of passage to become an attorney. You go through this training, you learn
Right.
how to read case law and analyze the cases, and your brain works like crazy, and it's just getting you ready for being an attorney.
Right.
And obviously law school is like the bar exam is the culmination of that. How much information can one human possibly fit
Okay,
into
so
their
tell me, like,
brain?
what was it like? I mean, were you really dedicated? Like, what was your
Yeah.
biggest challenge? Like, what did you dislike the most, or like, what did you love the most? I'm not looking for like drama here, but like, was there
Yeah.
something that you didn't that was really challenging in particular for you?
You know,
Because I know what mine was.
yeah, I had some amazing professors at Toro, some great old retired judges, some really interesting law professors. But what I really loved the most about law school, to be honest, aside from the class stuff, was the opportunity to work for a lot of different law firms.
Okay.
And I worked for a Ketam whistleblower law firm. I
Wow.
worked for the Nat, which was fascinating. We were working on a case against, it was a Cherokee Indian tribe that was making Kevlar helmets for the U.S. government, and there was a whistleblower case out of it. It was fascinating.
Really?
I worked for these two women who were these family law divorce attorneys who were hilarious and crazy. So I got to go to family court. I worked for a local court in Glen Cove, and ultimately I worked for the DA's office out in Nassau, which is really where I saw the DAs working and got to interact with them. And I was like, damn, I want to be like these guys. I want to be in court. I want to be trying cases. I want that. That's what really, got me. It lit me up,
Okay.
So I think, for anyone who's in law school, I think variety and experience is really key. You may not be able to work at a million different places.
Right.
But as much as exposure as you can get to kind of feel out what you like and what drives you, what you're passionate about. Because in law, passion, I think, is everything.
So you do talk about passion in your lawyer story, like,
Yeah.
and I love that. Like you said, so in your lawyer story, you said the number one thing is to have passion. Like, so what does passion mean to you?
Well, as a personal injury and medical malpractice attorney, I'm dealing with people that are, but in many instances, terribly injured, going through times in their life that is the worst imaginable thing that you could, go through. People with families that are out of work, disabled.
Yeah.
And just, I think it's my nature to really go out of my way to, even to a fault, to treat them like they're, my family. And I think that comes from my dad. And I becomes, it makes me so much more passionate about going to trial or working up their cases and doing this type of work. So I think it really helps,
Okay. So I gotta say, like, it's got to be pretty cool to be like in New York City, like the Bronx area. Like, what's it like? So, first of all, let me just tell the Lawyer Stories community like what amazing social media you have. Like, you're on TikTok, like Instagram. You have an incredible following too. Like, you have great content. So,
Thanks,
like,
man.
one thing I noticed, sure, and like one thing I noticed is like you have a little spot that you go to, like overlooking Yankee Stadium. I'm from New England. We talked about this pre-show, but I'm a Patriots, huge Celtics fan. I do like New York baseball. It's weird, but that's how I am. That's what makes the world go around. So like you have a spot that you go and you sit like overlooking like Yankee Stadium, and like you show that on your Instagram, and like just tell us what it's like to practice law in the Bronx.
Sure. So I live in Manhattan. So, every day when I would go to court, taking the train uptown, the 4 train, it takes you right past Yankee Stadium. So when you get out from being underground, you come out on the elevated train, and you can actually, when you're in the Bronx is north. Anyone who doesn't really know the area, it's north of Manhattan. You come out and you see Yankee Stadium, and literally the Bronx courthouse, where when courts are open full blast, I'm there probably 9 days out of 10.
Okay.
Yankee Stadium is literally 2 blocks from the courthouse.
Yeah, it's amazing.
There's one of my favorite things about being a trial attorney and being on trial, especially in the Bronx, is the afternoons. In the mornings when you're conferencing cases and the courthouse is just full of people, it's buzzing. But in the afternoons, it's the trial lawyers, and it really lightens up. And going out for lunch or just getting a breath of fresh air, after battling and whatever nonsense. And there's a rotunda, it's like an upper level on the courthouse where you literally have a straight view of Yankee Stadium.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And it's just awesome.
It's awesome.
It's awesome. There'll be days when there'll be day games and the streets are like packed, with people. So it's a really cool place.
Who's your favorite Yankee, like of all time? Who's your favorite?
Well, I'm a Mets fan.
Oh, that's amazing. Darryl Strawberry. Darryl Strawberry.
Yeah, Darryl. I'm probably a huge Mike Piazza fan.
Okay.
Love Mike.
Yeah, he's actually got a really good story. Actually, I saw like a clip on social media, like he was on the Howard Stern show. Like he had it just came up like on a feed, and like I watched a bit of it. But it's a great story. Like, yeah,
love him.
Great player.
Oh, he was a beast. Yeah. Yeah. When they lost to the Yankees, the Subway Series, and all that. I mean, I've been a diehard Mets fan and Jets fan.
All right. We'll talk offline about that. All right. We'll talk offline about that.
Brady, of course, Brady this year. Again.
All right. We're ending this podcast right now, Jets.
Right.
So
feel bad for me.
What's up?
You should feel bad for me.
All right. So like we talked about like the pandemic and like doing things online, but like I'm just really curious, like for your law firm, like was there anything you left out about like how COVID affected being in the courts and like your law firm? Like were you working from home? Like how did you guys handle things? Like how big's your office, by the way? Like I know like it's your dad and like.
Yeah, so we have 3 attorneys. It's me, my dad, and my middle brother. My youngest brother, who's in law school, he also works there,
that's awesome.
Time. And then we have our office staff. So there's usually about 6 of us.
Is he a Toro? Your younger brother a Toro?
Yeah. Yes. So we all are Toro.
And you actually, what I thought was really cool is, so all your brothers went to Toro?
Yeah. Yes.
What about your dad? Where did your dad go?
He went to Brooklyn Law.
Okay. So
I went for an interview there. I couldn't get in. My LSATs weren't good enough.
So you wrote. We'll talk about LSATs later. We don't have to do it on the show because
worst test ever.
So we have a blog, and I actually want to put this next thing on the blog. Like if you'll send it to me, our blog, the Lawyer Stories blog on the website. We're revamping the website. Actually, it's going to be amazing. The Lawyer Stories team is doing a great job. You wrote an article pivoting during a pandemic. So I think that was really cool. Like, I don't know if I know we're talking about pandemic and that sort of thing, but you said it was a reprieve. And I kind of like, I agree with that. I think that's like a good call. Sometimes people need that, especially when you're hustling so much and you're definitely adding a lot of value to like your dad's firm, not your dad's firm, but like the law firm and like joining your dad and like, you're adding a lot of value. You're doing your own thing. So having a reprieve is I would say is a good.
I think what this says, given a lot of us an opportunity to do is to kind of trim the fat from the practice. I mean, taking so much of what we do virtual. The nature of personal injury, because you're dealing with injured people. We still see our clients at our office. In the beginning, we had a tent set up in the back of our office is like a house in the Bronx. Yeah. So we had basically a tailgate set up, cool. It was the Jets tailgate set up in the back. But we were doing everything that we could to come in. The benefit of that was, we weren't going into a big office building, at least in the beginning. So we were able to pretty much ride it out, switching it up and being at the office. So, yeah.
That's good. So we have a nice community. I know you, and I appreciate you've been following, you've supported us. We featured you about a year ago in March.
Yeah.
What do you have like trial strategies or like any practice strategies like you'd want to share with like younger attorneys?
Sure. I think, number one, the most important thing about going into a trial or really any type of court presentation is to stay authentic. You can take things that you learn from other attorneys and apply them to what you do. I think I got caught in a trap when I first started, that I saw these great attorneys. I was trying to mimic, too much or copy what they were doing. And ultimately, it was my own authentic self that I think really resonated with jurors, when I was just able to be myself. So I think that is the most important thing, because when you're authentic, you're credible. And as a trial attorney, credibility is the number one thing to go into any trial. Once you lose your credibility, your case loses it as well. So you want to be yourself, number one. You're never going to be the best, procedurally or litigator in court. When you first start out, it's all about just getting as much experience as possible. It's the fake it till you make it type thing with trial practice.
So what's it like when the judge, like, they ask you questions? I mean, like, so for me, like, and I've said this in several of my podcasts, like in law school, I didn't like the Socratic method. Like,
no.
Every second I was just like, even if I did the assignment, like I knew I wouldn't be able to get the words out of my mouth that I wanted to. And like,
yep.
I think as I've gotten older, I'd be like a little better with it. Like as I've evolved as like a person, but like
totally.
that. So like how, like, you really have to think on your feet as a trial attorney,
Yeah.
right? So like,
yeah. So one of the other things that I would say to anyone that's just starting out is to know your case as well as you can. What I go into any case, any trial, with the mindset that I'm going to outwork anyone that I'm going up against. It could be the best defense attorney in the state. I know that I'm going to work harder than him. And if I do, and I know every piece of that case, every shred of evidence, then I'm going to be able to think on my feet and not just have to rely on notes or what's on the pad. I'm going to know really anything that comes up. And I think that is really the art that you learn. And you can start doing that early, but I think that a lot of young attorneys get caught in that trap of having your notes and just reading from a set of questions and not thinking about what the witness is answering to you. That's really
right. So basically you're just reading from the pad of paper and you're not responding.
Yeah, you can't think. Right.
That's hard though. That takes a special skill. So you're
and it takes time.
And you feel comfortable with that. You feel comfortable.
Yeah. I think in trial practice, you kind of, like any field of law, I would assume, you kind of reach that moment of clarity where you reach certain levels and you get better at certain things. But at its core, I would say just be authentic, be yourself, be passionate about what you're doing, show your passion. Don't be over the top crazy, but be passionate about it. Jurors are just normal people. They're going to see, they're going to pick up on things like that. And ultimately, you'll get better and better with all this.
So I know you love Toro, and like, no knock on them, but did like law school prepare you for all that? Like or do you think it's something,
no, not at all.
Like, do you think it's something that's like sort of ingrained, like something that's sort of you can't be taught? You know what I'm saying? Like, obviously, like law schools can teach the subjects, but going out there and being charismatic and winning a trial, like, is that something that can't be taught?
I think maybe to a degree, but not all great trial attorneys I've seen are charismatic. They have other ways of being effective.
Okay.
And that's what I'm talking about when you're talking about being authentic. You may not be the most for me, a good hair day is like 90% of battle.
Dude, honestly, like your hair, I was going to say this off camera. You probably have a good hair day every day. I used to have hair like you. I still do if I grow it out. I'll send you photos. All right. No, I won't. That sounds weird. But
look,
anyway.
After a trial, when the jurors are, coming up and trying to touch the coif, it's a good day. But, I think there's different ways to be effective if you want to pursue trial practice. I think, because you're dealing with a jury and you're dealing with new people, I think being a people person is a big thing. And that's always been my thing. My whole life, I've been a waiter, bartender.
You were, okay. So being okay, that's great. So that's why, we appreciate you as part of the Lawyer Stories community. Like, you're gonna thrive in this community. No, I understand. Like, people want to see somebody who they connect with, like the jurors want to connect with somebody, right?
Absolutely. And, there's not just, you bring your own unique background practicing in the Bronx. I'm dealing with, most of the juries are working class. a lot of immigrant communities, people that work in, in nursing, construction. I mean, I may not have as many things in common personally, but I think I can usually find some type of common ground where I can develop a connection with someone when I talk to them and break down the issues in my case and kind of apply them to what anyone could be going through. I think that's really, the key, and not alienating people, kind of bringing people in, is something that I've been pretty good at. So.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. That's huge. So would you say what percent of your cases like actually settle that come to your firm?
I'd say probably 95% of cases settle.
Really?
Yeah.
Was that like 2 letters, or is that like you talk to the insurance company? Is that?
Well, in New York, it varies. It's not like other states where there's a big emphasis on pre-suit litigation. Like my buddies down in Florida, they have a whole different thing that we have going on in New York. Yep. A lot of cases settle pre-suit. I really specialize. I do a lot of medical malpractice work, and those cases typically you got to go through all the discovery until you can even really talk, numbers on cases like that. So. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So like I know we talked about like young people, like what advice would you give like young people wanting to become attorneys and trial attorneys? And
I would say to anyone who's young that has a spark for this type of stuff is to take every opportunity that you can to be in court, to be in front of a judge, to answer questions, to depose witnesses. Just doing as many depositions as you can is such a great way to get comfortable with people. And, take any small trial that you can get and second seat as many lawyers as you can. I think that goes a long way. And then ultimately, when you're out on your own, I think one of the best things that you can do is get a trial tech set up for court. Look into getting a projector, a screen. There's different trial technology softwares to use. Really master that, because as a young attorney, you're going to be always going up against older, more experienced attorneys who do not use this stuff. And when I come in with a 9-foot projector, it's like a movie theater in court. It is a huge advantage as compared to someone who just brings in a cardboard cutout. So
really?
I had an epiphany about 10 years back. I saw someone using this stuff at a CLE, and an incredible attorney. His name's Martin Edelman in New York. And blew my mind. And the one thing that he said, and I'll share it with your audience, hopefully someone picks this up, is that, what's the one thing that everyone loves? He was at the CLE, he's looking around, it was like, people said they love their family, they love, chocolate, they love, whiskey, whatever. And it was like he looked at me and he said, everyone loves television. Everyone loves TV. And what is TV now? It's these guys. Yeah. Okay. They want to be engaged. You want to wow people. You want to bring them in, make the evidence come to life. And that's what trial technology does. And every jury I talk to, that's the one thing that they always say. They love the presentation. So if you can do it, it simplifies your trial practice. Learn as much as you can about it. It's a huge benefit, and still a lot of people don't use it. That's what I'd say.
So you think technology is like one of the biggest things,
things right now, especially I'm sure in other fields, technology is more savvy, but in personal injury, as a plaintiff, you're typically going up against much older, more senior partners. That's what I've done my entire life. I've gone up in 10, 20, 30 years older than me. You're constantly underestimated every trial. And that's a great advantage to have. When you're underestimated, you go up against someone, they're going to let their guard down. They're not going to work as hard and, take advantage.
So Kyle, that says a lot about you and like the faith that your dad has in you in terms of cases. I mean, maybe he sees the cases that comes in, he doesn't necessarily process them. You're obviously doing the interrogatories and depositions maybe, but like he's I don't want to say letting you, because you've been practicing for a long time, but he has so much faith in you as an attorney that you're going and you're doing these things, and you're actually, I mean, I looked at your website, you're returning $1 million verdicts like almost every time you go to trial. So
I would say, but yes,
maybe not every time, but you know what I'm saying, like that's that's incredible, man. I mean,
thanks, man. We have it's a lot. We have great clients, people that really trust us in the community. And I've been fortunate to represent people that with catastrophic injuries, you know, those big $1 million, multi-million dollar settlements, that represents a person that was seriously, terribly injured. So, you know, that's why I've been very fortunate as a young age, you know, it's such a blessing to be able to go to trial so frequently and to get good at it at a young age, you know. I still kind of look young. You can't really see the grays now, but
you're super young. Your hair is like, you're like Travolta, especially looking at your post from
you love that.
Instagram stories. I suggest everybody follow you. I mean, that stuff is good, man. Like you just didn't flop over like 2 slices of pizza like you did in the movie. I'm still that's like one of my favorite movies, but
I love it.
I mean, yeah, man, fantastic.
Yeah.
So like, what else do you have to say? Anything to the Lawyer Stories community that like we can share? Like, is there anything I left out?
You know what? I think that Lawyer Stories is such an amazing thing, you know, for young attorneys, for, you know, attorneys that are maybe getting into social media and see the incredible benefit of it. You know, you really have a platform here that I never had. In 2008, when I graduated, I first met my wife. We were talking on AIM when I was in law school.
Dude, don't even get me started on it.
You know,
AOL Instant Messenger.
That's it. AOL.
Hey, wait. Did you message her and say A/S/L, like age, sex, location?
So my wife, it's been deleted now, but her name was Chicky 100.
What is it now?
Like, when she first hit me up, it was like Chicky 100.
What was yours, dude?
One of those bots that say, "Hey, you want to go out or whatever." And I'm like, "Is this real?"
Well, what was your IAM name? I'll tell you what.
It was Rippy Treats.
Rippy what?
Rippy Treats.
I'm not even gonna ask what that means.
I made it up in like when I was 14, bro.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's how far we've come. But you know, take every opportunity to learn from people, see what works for other people, connect with as many people as possible. That's what this stuff is for. Don't just be a consumer, be a producer of content, to engage with other people, like other people's stuff, try to talk to them. There's so many amazing attorneys that you can learn from just on social media. You know, it's amazing.
Mentor is huge, right? Having a mentor is like huge.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think for some people, like they have it in them where they're just going to go out. They don't give a shit, like excuse my language, what people say. But I think like having a mentor to like if you like who can understand like how you work and how you learn.
Yep.
Is like the biggest, most beneficial, propitious thing you could find.
Totally. Because there's always going to be someone out there that's just like you, that's gone through the same type of thing, that's maybe a little bit older or a little bit younger, but that you can relate to. It's incredible how many of those people there are out there. And, you know, I just love it because you can learn so much from so many different people that have incredible stories, that do incredible work. And also you get these connections where you might get business from it later on. It's just a big networking, thing as well. So I see nothing but good out of it, if you use it right. So.
Okay. Well, hey, Kyle Newman, we appreciate you having you in the community, man. You have a lot of great things to say and great ideas, and you're crushing it out there.
Trying, man. Trying to be like you, Benny.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you, spending the time with me, and cheers.
Hey, cheers, man. L'chaim.
L'chaim.
For stay on the line. Thank you, everybody. Episode 42. We appreciate you being with us.
In the books. Let's go Jets.
Follow Kyle Newman. If you need to get in touch with him, how would we get in touch with you, Kyle?
Yeah, you could look me up. It's at Kyle New ESQ on Instagram. My law firm is James Newman P.C. You can find us pretty easily if you just Google us. So.
Or ask Benny Gold, that lawyer.
Or ask Benny Gold. That's it.
Wherever you are in the world today.
Yeah.
Enjoy it.
Anyone out there wants any questions to ask, want to link up, hit me up. Let's go.
Cheers.
Cheers.